If you've seen any of my leatherworking videos before, you'll know that I am all for minimalist design. And today I wanted to raise the bar by answering an interesting question. Can you make a bag, a pouch, a satchel using just a single piece of leather? Today we're going to find out. So I started off by making a paper pattern like I typically do, based off of this design, just adding in some thickness essentially, measuring it out to be able to fit those 5 film canisters, those 120 canisters that I wanted to put in there. And then I started doing my very first prototype with some veg tan leather. Now just before I get into a few details of my process, because I know that some of you are interested in that, if you're someone that just wants the pattern, just wants to see how to make this, then feel free to skip ahead. I'll put a stamp somewhere. And of course, don't forget to stick around to the end of the video. I'll explain how you can download this pattern and other patterns like this completely free. Anyway, when it comes to initial prototyping, just one of the things to remember when you're going from a paper to a leather pattern is that you need to account for the thickness of the leather. Paper has basically 0 thickness in terms of the radius that you can achieve, so you can quite happily put two parts together and just fold them and you have a corner. But from my experience, depending on the thickness of the leather you're using, but I usually allow between sort of 5 or 7 millimeters for a curve. So if you have a pattern with, let's say you have 2 sides and a bottom, and the sides are 80 and the bottom's 40, that's 200 together. But you should allow probably at least 210 to 215 on your overall length, because by the time you bend it, that's how you're going to get your 80 height. When it comes to the actual design, not too much to say here, to be honest. I pretty much just based it off of the mountain wallet, which you may have seen before. If you haven't, I'll link it above. Decided to use brass rivet and burrs here. I do typically prefer this type of rivet and burr setup, but there's a couple of problems with it. It is a pain in the ass, especially the brass. I've actually not really used brass much before. I typically use copper, but the brass is much harder, which makes it much tougher to be able to peen and actually peen nicely. And given that I'm in a condo building, I have to be really careful about noise. So I actually found these to be a bit of a struggle. I kind of ended up doing it on my balcony, and then people, you can hear it from like 4 blocks away. So at this point, I had a final shape and design that I was actually pretty happy with. And with the stiff veg tan leather, to be honest, you could stop there. It actually works and functions as a pouch. But the one thing with limiting yourself to a single piece of leather for something like this is you are a little bit limited in terms of the functionality, or at least in terms of practicality. So being kind of happy with what I achieved so far, I decided to take it to the next step. On the second one now, I actually switched to an oil tan leather. This had a lot more of those sort of rugged characteristics and look that I was going for, and it's a very similar style of leather to what I used previously on the mountain wallet. So jumping in here with the base shape cut out, I just basically drew around the first prototype to kind of get this primitive pattern here. I started thinking about what additional functionality I'd like to add to this, and the first thing that came to mind is, how is this thing going to be carried? Now, the way I see it, there's a few ways this could be carried, the one just being it's in a camera bag, in which case the current design works for that. But to be honest, the main purpose of making this was that it would more be a standalone product. So if I'm out shooting with my film camera, just taking a few photos, if I'm doing that, it's probably because I don't want to go out with my digital camera with tons of lenses and a backpack and various gear. I shoot film because for me it's convenient. It's kind of something I do when I'm just out and about, and I don't want to have to carry all of that gear. So for me, I would probably carry this on my belt. So I decided, what about adding a belt loop, something that you could just put around your waist? Now, not everyone has belts, and not everyone wants to carry a big pouch on their belt. So I thought about also adding some little hooks and being able to add a strap. So this could actually be carried as a bag as well. So I was just trying to, with minimal complexity to the design, to really maximize the practicality and the usefulness of this particular piece. I did release a video a couple of years ago now about making an adjustable strap like this. If you want like a really detailed step-by-step of how to make your own adjustable strap, that video's, I think it's about 4 or 5 minutes long. I'll link it above, feel free to check that out. Now before we go to the final step, just a quick note on the fasteners that I'm using. You'll notice that I stopped using the brass rivet and burrs and I switched to a Chicago screw. There's 2 reasons for this. First of all, I felt that the antique brass look of these fasteners matched the leather better. But far more importantly, I just got fed up with the noise and the inconvenience of using rivet and burrs, and these fasteners don't make any noise. They're also easy to take on and off, which is very nice when you're making a prototype because you can take things apart if you need to. Finally, the strap for the buckle, I made this in the same way I make every strap. It's pretty simple, just a two-piece design attached either side. This is something that I'm adding at the final stage, where realistically I should have designed this into it a little bit earlier. So I did just kind of add it, attach it to the back, didn't really stitch it in or kind of hide it. So you'll notice that it doesn't look particularly fantastic, but that's not how I would actually finally do this. I would probably have to extend that leather slightly, the strap slightly, and actually stitch it into that back piece so that it sort of hides underneath the stitch line. Or alternatively, you could even make this strap part of that actual back piece, so you're simply cutting one piece that has the straps extending out of it. Either way, it served its purpose for now. Once I added the buckle, added another little Chicago screw on the front to hold the lower buckle in place, I had what I thought was a pretty successful design. So I hope you enjoyed that brief overview of kind of my process and my thoughts coming up with this design. As usual, if you like this design and you want to make your own, this pattern is available on the website. For those of you that turned up in the first 2 weeks after the release of this video, those early birds, the people that have that notification bell hit, the people that watch these videos as they come out, free pattern just for you as a thank you for watching these videos. For those of you who missed out on that 2-week window, don't worry, you can still purchase the pattern from the website. It's not much, it's not expensive, especially considering how long I take on those patterns and also on these videos. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, comment below what you want to see next time, and subscribe for more future videos just like this. Thank you so much for coming. See you next time.